Today we're diving into a field of science that's quietly becoming one of our most important tools in preventing the next global health crisis. It's called biodiversity informatics, and it's kind of like a secret shield protecting all of us.
So let's just jump right in with a pretty wild question. How on earth can a dusty 100-year-old animal specimen sitting in a museum drawer possibly help us predict the next pandemic? I know it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but the answer is very, very real. And frankly, it's more important than ever.
See, the clues we desperately need are literally all around us, but they're completely scattered. They're hidden in millions of physical specimens, tucked away in old scientific journals, scribbled in field notes, and now popping up in citizen science apps. It's like a giant planetary-scale puzzle, and all the pieces are just thrown all over the place.
So there you have it, a whole planet brimming with clues. But for the longest time, we had no way to read them all together, to see the big picture.
But that's all starting to change, thanks to a new kind of investigator. You can think of it as a digital detective. This is the field that's stepping up to solve this massive global puzzle.
And this detective has a name, Biodiversity Informatics. So what is it, really? Well, to put it simply, it's the science of using modern computing power and information technology to make sense of all that scattered biological data. The ultimate goal? To create one single gigantic searchable library of all life on Earth. And the way it works is pretty much just like a real detective. First, you gather the evidence. That's the physical specimens and all the observations from the field. Then you digitize the clues, scanning old records, sequencing DNA. Now, this third step is absolutely crucial. You connect the dots. You have to harmonize all these different databases so they can actually talk to each other. And finally, you get to analyze all that connected data to reveal the patterns that were hidden all along.
So what kind of tools does our digital detective actually use? Okay, let's open up the toolkit.
The scale we're talking about here is just staggering. Just to give you an idea, one single platform, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, or GBIF, blew past 3 billion species occurrence records in 2024. That's 3 billion individual data points, each one saying, this species was found right here at this exact time. Mind-blowing.
And GBIF isn't working alone. No way. Think of it more like a team of specialists. You've got GBIF as the big global hub. Then you have iDigBio, which is focused on the massive job of digitizing all the collections in the US. OBIS is the expert for everything in the ocean, and BOLD is the specialist in DNA fingerprinting, basically building a genetic library to identify species. They all feed into this bigger system.
But for this whole team to work together, they have to speak the same language. And that's where data standards like Darwin Core come in. Honestly, these are the unsung heroes of this whole operation. They create a universal framework, kind of like a universal translator, so that a record from a museum in Brazil makes perfect sense next to a photo from a smartphone in Japan. Without these standards, it's just a bunch of digital noise. Okay, so we've got the tools, and we've got this mountain of data. Now, let's make the most important connection of all, the one between wildlife, disease, and, well, us.
This brings us to a really powerful concept called One Health. And it's actually a pretty simple idea. You cannot separate the health of people from the health of animals and the health of the environment we all share. It's all one big interconnected system.
And this quote from GBIF just nails why that data is so critical. It says that to protect people, you have to know where the animals that carry diseases live. That biodiversity data, it gives us the map. It shows us where the risks are.
So, the big question, does all of this digital detective work actually make a difference in the real world? Oh yeah, let's crack open some actual case files. All right, our first case file, monkeypox, or Npox. Researchers had a huge mystery to solve. Where was the risk of this virus spilling over from animals to humans the highest? So here's how they cracked it. They took their evidence, data on human cases, and they combined it with all those GBIF records showing where suspected rodent hosts live. By layering that data and analyzing it against climate patterns, they came up with a massive finding, a predictive map of spillover hotspots across 28 different African nations. The outcome is incredible. It's a risk map that lets public health officials focus their efforts exactly where they're needed most. It's a game changer. Now, this second case file, this one is going to hit a little closer to home for all of us. It's all about understanding the risks from SARS-like coronaviruses carried by bats.
In this study, scientists used GBIF data to map out where 35 different bat species known to carry these viruses live right now. But they didn't stop there. They then used climate models to project where those bat populations are going to shift in the future. And the finding, as you can see in this quote, is pretty alarming. Climate change is basically going to push all these different bat species into new overlapping hotspots, which could seriously increase their contact with humans and, raise the risk of another spillover.
So here's the bottom line, the big takeaway from all this. When you combine all this biodiversity data with climate models and public health information, you can actually start to build an early warning system, a map that shows us where the next big threat might be simmering. But the case is definitely not closed. This work is incredibly powerful, but it's also facing some really big challenges. Let's take a look at the work that's still ahead of us.
Probably the biggest hurdle is just filling in the massive gaps in our knowledge. I mean, sure, we have billions of records, but that data is heavily skewed. It's mostly concentrated in Europe and North America, where scientific institutions have historically been. This means the most biodiverse places on the planet, especially in the tropics, are still huge blind spots on our map. And even though citizen science is helping, there are still millions of priceless historical specimens just sitting in museum cabinets, their data totally offline and unusable for this kind of global analysis.
So the future of this field is all about tackling these problems head-on. We're talking about using AI to analyze data faster, pushing for a truly integrated digital health system that weaves together biodiversity, climate, and health data. And this one's critical, building fair, equitable global partnerships so that every country can contribute to and benefit from this shared shield.
Which really just leaves us with one final thought. When you step back and look at it, what we're doing here, piece by piece, is building a planetary-scale alarm system for our own health. It's a system built on centuries of knowledge powered by incredible new technology. The only question left is, are we investing enough to make sure that the next time that alarm goes off, we're actually listening?